Hey guys, Jay-Sensei here again. This is going to be what if Aang was trained by the other avatars. Now, this is kind of in honor of the new live-action show, and this is just for fun because I had this in the back burner of my mind for a while. That's why the thumbnail's kind of just ass. But this has just been here for a while, so I thought I'd use it. Alright. Now the story begins when Aang would be flying away on Appa after being overwhelmed with the responsibility of being told he is the Avatar. He still is caught in the storm, but when he's frozen, he sees that it wasn't himself who was freezing, as he didn't enter the Avatar state, or at least not by will or fear. It was forced upon him. But he just sees a blue projection, or multiple blue projections, bending the sea around him and Appa. Aang would yell, Who are you people? But Large would actually grab Aang by the neck and tell him, You are a coward. So we're taking it upon ourselves to beat power and responsibility into you. As Aang is suddenly dragged into an all-white plane with Appa behind him. Aang was frozen, literally and metaphorically. And in his mind, he would be lectured by hundreds of people, or at least around hundreds. But Aang would witness these people yelling at him until a man in a red cloak would end up grabbing Aang by the ear and throwing him in front of a pond. Aang's a bit nervous until he's told to look into it, and as he looks into it, he would witness the air temple being massacred. And he's asked when this is, but he's just told 2 hours ago, and you've been frozen for 4. Aang would immediately just realize that he could have helped, but then Kyoshi mentions that with how strong everyone here is, Aang would have just been another statistic, and you would have let the Avatar fall into the Air Nation's hand. Or not Fire Nation's hand. Now, Kyoshi does admit that, you wouldn't have done anything, but you are still a coward. You could have at least left to train and not left to abandon the world. And Kyoshi would explain that, this is the cost of your cowardice. You would have died, so I can't give you too much shit. And then suddenly she's cut off by Roku, who says, she means she cannot blame you for the travesty. We can just blame you for trying to abandon the world. That's it. Kyoshi's more of a TV MA avatar. Yin Chen's between 13 and MA, and Roku's pretty solid PG-13. But yeah. Now, in this cloudy realm, it began transforming into a nature-like oasis. And a man who looks, in Aang's words, hippie-ish, would basically explain to Aang that, this is a spirit realm, and I'm the most spiritually in tune avatar. In fact, I trained here mostly. So he explains that certain avatars will train Aang in aspects. And first, the avatars will have a small duel. And this duel will basically be rooting out the strongest and the weakest. And the strongest will train Aang. Now, as these fights happened, there were mainly 6 winners of these fights. So, the Firebenders, there were 2 final contenders, and there was a draw at the end between Zeto and Roku. Now, Roku overall is probably the strongest, but Zeto's actually a lava bender, a very powerful one. He bends lava out of multiple volcanoes at once. I can see him using lava bending to beat Roku, or at least knock him down. But Roku would use his immense control over all natures, pulling like an end of series Aang. And even though that was not enough to beat Zeto, but it was able to knock him down, leading to a draw. So Zeto and Roku will share firebending training with Aang. And so will even pass down lava bending to him. Now, Earth is obviously Kyoshi. Waterbending, we don't know any other powerful waterbenders aside from Karuk, plus he's a naturally into waterbender due to him being from the Northern Water Tribe, so he's training Aang. Plus, he's the only one who would actually, let Aang chill out. So, yeah. Sure, put this, Karuk is kind of like the cool history teacher, the one who lets people skip in their class and shit like that. So, yeah. Then Air is Jeong Jeong, as she's one of the stronger avatars, actually. In terms of overall power, I'd probably put, from the strongest to weakest, I'd probably go Kyoshi, maybe Aang. I think Aang and Korra can probably be tied, but then just below them would be Jeong Jeong. One of her abilities is that has to drain the air out of your body. So, yeah, Jeong Jeong's powerful. Wan's probably up there, but I'm not too sure. But Wan is just going to assist Aang with energy bending and his connection to the spirit realm. So, yeah. Now, Aang trains there for the entire 100 years that he is that he's frozen. The only day he did not train is his first day there, where he was just taught to explore. So yeah. But eventually Aang trains there for years. I think that's like, it's 100 years, like 36,000 something days. I forgot that. But I have it somewhere else in here probably. But he does break free from the ice. And he did it of his own volition. And like he's forcefully breaking it with like just raw waterbending abilities. There's really no bright light. It's just him using really good waterbending. There's no bright light. If anything, just around the world people would sense something is off. Kind of like Gojo, where he's born, the balance of the world shifted. When Aang is unleashed, the balance of the world shifts. And Osai doesn't know what's going on, but he feels the shift. He feels something's wrong. Now, in Aang history, he wanted to immediately go socialize, but Kyoshi shut it down, saying, "No, you're going to train some more. You have bended elements mentally in the spirit realm. We don't know what you're capable of in this realm. If anything, you might accidentally kill someone. You're not fond of killing. If you do that, you will be breaking a lot of your own morals, which will detriment your bending. You need to go train and make sure you're capable of bending properly." So with this, Aang doesn't know where to go, but Kuruk recognizes the area as near the Southern Water Tribe, so Geshu tell Aang, surf over to blank. It's Appa can't fly yet, so Aang just creates an ice surfboard made of ice and surfs over to an abandoned island. That's basically kind of in like on the border between the Earth and water nations, so it's not really completely snowy. So yeah. So Aang actually spent 2.5 years there. As when we first started earthbending, he bent the entire island by accident with a single stomp. Mind, Aang trained with bending for over 100 years. He don't take a single break. His bending's too overpowered. So he spent 2.5 years here learning to control it. So yeah. But he trains for 2.5 years. At this point, he's 14, almost 15. And in terms of size, I'd probably put him equal to Sokka. I'd put him about there. So with this, Kuroko actually tell Aang to head back to the Southern Water Tribe, just because they can give him a bit of, they can help him there. Yes, with what? But he basically mentions, like, Aang, you're very, like, old-fashioned, so if there's any benders there, they can teach you how to use some abilities. Now, Aang knew this was right out, but Kuroko wanted him to go here for a reason. It's honestly just intuition. Intuition of love. As Aang kept an eye on the world the entire time he was frozen, that pond was basically something to see down into the human realm. So yeah. Now, Aang came back, and on his way there, he actually landed ashore where he just sees Fire Nation armor, tools, so on and so forth. I just realized something. Aang would still be 112, but in terms of size, no, he wouldn't. Wait, So he was frozen? No, he wouldn't be 112. He would have only been frozen for he would have been frozen for 98 years. Physically, he would not be 12 anymore. He would turn 112, but physically he's 14. I messed that up a little bit. I'm sorry. So he was frozen for like 97 and a half years. Came back. Now he's good, but he looks 14. But chronologically, he's 12. So yeah. Or at least chronologically, he'd be 112, but he's 14 in his own opinion. But yeah. Now, back to where Aang's walking to the Southern Water Tribe. As Aang walked, he would grab just tons of tools, like just Fire Nation weapons, Fire Nation armor, all that. Now, Aang is a bit less iffy on a lot of stuff he was in camp. Like, he's still childlike, but he's just more relaxed. If anything, he's a lot like Kuruk, but he has the seriousness. He's a bit of a combination of Kuruk and Kyoshi, which is a very hard mesh, but he's like that a lot. Because Kuruk was his favorite teacher, Kyoshi was the most effective one. So, yeah. Well, Wan and Kyoshi tried for that, but still. But, Aang would use all these to basically mend his clothing a bit, as he spent a few hours there just kind of sewing and stitching his clothes up, but also adjusting the fans, clothes, and the fan, like, not fans, but adjusting a lot of tools and making new ones, which he spends a few hours doing. As Kyoshi and all the other avatars taught him a lot of skills, essential ones, to survive. In the spirit world, especially. So Aang had made fans, adjusted his clothing. This looks a lot like his Fire Nation clothing. Instead of it being red, it's orange. And he did grow his hair. as he kind of makes a vow to himself, saying that he will not cut his hair until he can solidify he's going to end the war. So, like, the day he's going to end the war is the day he cuts his hair. So, yeah. Now, there's only going to be book 1, so we're not getting to the end yet. But Aang makes fans, adjusts his clothing, and he makes himself a new glider, all in the span of a few hours. He also does adjust Appa's saddle, because it was a bit messed up. So, yeah. Now, Aang kind of just skip into the Southern Water Tribe, and when he starts talking to Katara, they noticed him, and he was kind of just, well, they were about to leave. But Aang was basically just kind of just walking, but also the snow seemed to be moving out of his way, ice as well. Aang was not dressed for this weather, but everything around him was moving out of the way, anything water-related. So, yeah. Now, Katara would notice this, and see that Aang's moving snow and stuff like this. So, this actually leads to them kind of, like, questioning him. Like, they ask if he's a bender, and he says, yeah, I am. Katara would actually be surprised, and because he's in this area, she actually asks, are you a waterbender? And Aang he's not a waterbender. So he says, kinda. Are you guys from the Southern Water Tribe? Like, is this the village? Because he thinks, he's like, this is the North, it's really sad. Sokka would ready a spear just before they answer any questions, but Aang just flicks the air, and Sokka's spear basically evaporates, except for, like, the part he's holding in his hand. Which Sokka was surprised by. But they talk as Aang actually goes fishing with them, and is able to pretty much just bend the water around them, creating a giant bubble, holding about, I'd say, 300 pounds of fish. But he also had a bit of kelp in there to hold the fish in place. So, yeah. So while they're there, he provides his identity as Avatar Aang and what he's been doing. Now, when they actually do start, like, questioning him why he's been gone for 100 years now, and she mentions, like, I was gone for 100 years, but I was honestly training the entire time. He promises he was training, as he shows off his ability to use all 4 elements pretty effectively. But also, he shows off the ability to shoot lightning. Now, here's where I'm going to go on to a little bit of not a tangent, but actually, no, it's a tangent. So, in all honesty, Aang became more skilled than every Avatar that we've seen within, like, I would say, in the physical realm, he became the most skilled Avatar ever. Spiritual realm, Kyoshi did get a bit stronger, same for Roku and all them, but Aang is still able to match and beat them. I think Kyoshi would be his only challenge. Wan as well, but Wan knows the spirit wild, so it's more like an environmental advantage and a power advantage. Where Kyoshi's fury and Wan's knowledge would basically overpower Aang, but he'd still draw with them because he's skilled. Yeah. Plus, he has basically every solid knowledge of every subbending category. He has seismic sense as well. He has that ability. It's not hard for him to learn that. He has lava bending. He has every subcategory just because he had time to learn it. Only one he's struggling to learn is metal bending because he's not really around metal at all. Like, Sokka's spear is the first time he encountered it, and he evaporated it with wind. A flick of wind, actually. But that's just speaking how powerful he is right now. So yeah, so he proves his identity. They talk for a bit, and eventually, Aang does, like, Fire Nation arrives, and he disguises himself as a traveler, and he says he wanted penguin pelt. But due to Aang's need to leave his arrows revealed because he does some pride in being an airbender, Iroh noticed it and pointed it out to Zuko. Who was just being blasted pointers at Aang, but all he did was just not even move. He just exhaled loudly, and his wind sent the flames back, right the benders, sending them flying across the village. Now, Iroh had noticed his form and control. Not control, but just, not even form, just control. And he simply told Zuko, this is an airbending master, you will not win. And he said to Zuko, you will not win, you need to leave, you will lose horribly. Now, Zuko's eyes just widened, but he refused, saying, Avatar, I challenge you to a contest of fire. And before he went on an entire tangent, Aang decided, saying, just say Agni Kai, I was in the Fire Nation before you and your uncle were even conceived. I know what an Agni Kai is, just say that. Zuko was immediately a bit annoyed that Aang cut him off, but the fight begins. Well, first they set up an arena as Aang literally just blasts a row of flames from his fingers, and it was immediately set up pretty quickly. But they mainly burned like a small arena into a boat, and Aang and Zuko begin fighting. Now, Aang just mainly dodged and jumped over Zuko, when Aang got close, when Zuko got close, Aang would grab him by the wrist, twist, and throw him. Now, Aang had learned various martial arts from the avatars, but also due to keeping an eye on the world, he kept up with a few techniques. Now, tactics were a bit harder to learn because Aang couldn't hear what people were doing. Tactics are easier to hear and then learn, in Aang's opinion. So, tactics are a bit hard to learn, that's why mainly he's going on adventures and not straight up bodying Ozai. He needs to learn to keep up with modern soldiers. So, Aang had learned various martial arts, and he used bending forms to, shoot elements, but also uses those same forms to not use elements, if you get what I'm saying. How to phrase this? So bending is based off martial arts. Aang uses those martial arts for bending and actual hand-to-hand combat. Is the best way to put it. So yeah. But also, he was taught many weapons, mainly by Kyoshi. She taught him to use spears, swords, staffs, fans, and clubs. Aang mainly uses fans and staffs. So, yeah. Now, as the fight begins, Aang has not used firebending once, he's literally just been punching Zuko in the face or throwing him. And Aang would speak, saying, Prince Zuko, my firebending skills are from the man who rivaled the Fire Lord who started this horrible war, and from another man who had dying loyalty to your kingdom. So Aang knows both sides of firebending, the aggression and the passion. So Aang basically says, your bending is out of aggression and desperation, something that ruins the true power of firebending. Firebending is fluid, fast, but compassionate. You bend with your soul, not your emotions. But, Aang's just saying you're supposed to bend with your soul, stuff like that. But Zuko's only bending with his emotions and barely any brain. So with this, Aang mentions that can cloud your power. Compassion is the true source, and before he can finish the sentence, Zuko would just yell, shut up, compassion, soul, lies, all that is nothingness. But as he's going just yelling at Aang, he will step out of bounds by stepping back a little bit to get away from Aang, but as he steps back, he steps out of bounds. So with this, Iroh says, Prince, he uses the same bending I use. From what he's saying, I can tell. I can vouch for his skill and how it works. But, he's also lost, by the way. But he just proposes a new bet between Aang and Zuko. And he says, Avatar, I would like you to make a promise with my nephew. Challenge my nephew to an Agni Kai every time you two come across each other's path. He will learn under me, and he will capture you of his own volition. No assistance from me, or any of his soldiers. He will challenge you to a battle of firebending, and then he'll truly capture you on his own. Aang smiled and nodded. Zuko would punch the ground of the ship over and over again until his knuckles were red and bleeding. But he does not really mind the bet. He actually wants to do this. He prefers it that way. But Aang just waves to Iroh and Zuko, jumping off the boat and walking back into the Water Tribe. But he would actually kick the air, sending Zuko's ship back out to sea. But eventually, Aang does actually recruit Sokka and Katara by saying, Katara, I could teach you bending, and Sokka, I can teach you these weapons and bending techniques, but it's almost just martial arts. You pay attention to it, and you can see it's martial arts. Zuko's a bit more wild, but he's talented to the point where it doesn't matter. Sokka and Katara actually like this arrangement, so they agree. Sokka and Katara, they end up going out with Aang into the water to the southern air temple. So yeah. Now, when they get there, and Aang does see Yasuo's skeleton, instead of lashing out, he kind of does. His tattoos light up and his eyes light up as well. But instead of just throwing a fit, he just calms down, exhales, and kneels down, picking off Yasuo's necklace, and putting it on himself, after he washes it off. It's very dusty and gross. And decides, saying, I knew he was here, I just didn't think I could handle it, and I couldn't. But, good thing I have restraint. He thinks this to himself. He doesn't say it out loud. He's like, good thing I can restrain myself, this would have been bad for you. Katara and Sokka would have thought Aang would have killed them. But he's thinking this because he knows it would have been bad to say out loud. So yeah, even Kyoshi, who's an Aang's spiritual escape, would basically realize, like, yeah, Aang would have folded her in the state, because he was just that furious. So even Kyoshi admitting that Aang can now currently fold her in a human state and in a spiritual state as well now. So that's how strong Aang is currently. So yeah. But in the meantime, Zuko's learning under Iroh. Zuko's honor is on the line right now for a 1v1 against the Avatar, and he has to turn him over after beating him. And Zuko has to be in tune with his emotions. So I was going to give him a small talk. Zuko, the Avatar grew his hair up despite his history, and power as a nomad. Nomads believe in peace, and the Avatar will not likely return to looking like a normal air nomad for a while. This is a vow of sorts, a vow that he will not look like an air nomad. In my opinion, he will not look like an air nomad until he ends this war and brings them back. You need to let your hair down and return to normal as well, showing you want to be equals with the Avatar. Which does actually confuse Zuko a bit, and he says, let your hair down and let it grow long to where it was when you fought your father. Where the old self, where you had compassion and love for your honor, or not love for your mother more than your honor. Let that Zuko return. Your hair will be the first symbol of it. This honestly just so that Zuko isn't bald anymore. I hate it with a passion, and it scares me. Okay. But Zuko hears that and would try to argue, but before he could even say a word, Iroh would yank his hair tie off and walk away, leaving him with a cup of tea. So, yeah. Now, eventually, Zuko's group gets to Zhao's island, and he would see Zuko on the dock training. The only question is, Zuko's more or less back in form and just breathing. Now, Zhao does discover the Avatar and all that, and Zhao and Zuko fight. But to Zuko's shock, he actually would try to use Iroh's form instead of dodging like Aang was doing. As we're not going in his favor. He's going to get burned if he keeps doing this because he's not good at it. So with this, he decides to use one of Iroh's forms of firebending, or one of the forms that Iroh taught him, and blast at Zhao. He would notice the flames immediately overpower Zhao, sending Zhao flying. Now Zhao doesn't go out of bounds, but before he gets ready to fight or get back up and fight again, he just sees soldiers stifling laughter. He's confused. He's like, I didn't get sent flying that badly. So he yells, what are you laughing about? What is so funny? But Zuko just smirked, pointing to his eyebrows. Or he supposed to put his own eyebrows, feel here. Zhao feels his own eyebrows, realizing that Zuko quickly burned them off, and left 2 burn marks in their place. Zhao immediately gets angry, and out of just pure shame, he runs out of bounds. He feels embarrassed. So Zuko's walking away, but Zhao ran out of bounds as fast as he could so he could fix his face. A lot of makeup to fix those burn marks. So yeah. But Zuko won the Agni Kai and won him last. Now even then, that would not be enough to beat Aang. Aang would have won that fight in a flick. But back to the gang. Gang with double A. But yeah. Now they make the way to Kyoshi Island. But before he arrives, she would go into Avatar state to trigger Kyoshi's statue, and that she does alert them of Aang's arrival. So when he lands, they know he's here. He does land at the same time so he can swim with the koi, with the massive koi fish and all that. Even the giant fish begins to intimidate him, or intimidate Sokka for a little bit. Aang kind of just grabbed it and threw it. So yeah, he usually just grabbed it with airbending or waterbending and then threw it. So yeah, pause. Okay, sorry about that. When he lands, the villagers actually wish he would arrive to see what Aang's doing, because why didn't he come from the village? They see him throwing around a massive fish and swimming on giant koi fish, or not swimming on, but holding onto giant koi fish as they swim. But I think when he arrives, he's a little bit hesitant, but he does prove himself to be the Avatar by going to the Avatar state again and triggering the Kyoshi statue. And he does prove it after that by just bending all the elements. And when they do quite question him why he's here after so long instead of fixing the world, he mentions that he trained for every passing day. Also, I figured out the math for how many days 100 years is. That's about 36,525. I think so. Because I think my note for it is way farther down, and I don't think we can get there in this video. Maybe, probably not, but... Oh yeah, while Aang is there, he stocks up on food and water, and some tools to repair his clothes, as he repaired them off Fire Nation clothing. But now he gets his clothes officially fixed properly, and his weapons are treated normally. And Sokka, due to having Aang talk to him about the fan martial art and how it's actually taught to him by a woman, Sokka was surprised and is learning under Aang a woman's martial art. So now Sokka actually has his respect for the Kyoshi warriors, And he does think he'll win until Suki manhandles him. So yeah, or I guess Suki handles him. So yeah, Suki is Suki. But yeah. Now Aang does also teach the Kyoshi warriors some of Kyoshi's more evolved techniques after she did make a few more abilities along the spirit realm. So with this kind of like a chore, or I guess an area that Aang is doing for Kyoshi. Also does mention on the offhand they do have a bender of some sorts born in their nation. He does write down how to combine them with air, water, earth, and fire. So eventually Zuko does arrive on this island, and his soldiers target the gang, but Katara, Sokka, and the Kyoshi warriors are pretty able to fight them off to a stalemate. Now Sokka's fighting like Admiral G on Zuko's ship, and when he tried to use firebending, Zuko's actually copying the forms and teaching the forms of every bending martial art. So Sokka's actually kind of matching him. Instead of shooting elements, he's more or less just blocking and negating G's attacks. Until eventually he's able to pull out a fan and smack him right in the jaw, knocking him out. So Sokka is on par with a Fire Nation Admiral. Pretty solid. So yeah. And Sokka was part that actually worked on him, but he's glad. Sorry about that. Now, Aang is meditating while the group fights. He knows what's going on, but he knows they could win. Plus, Katara is pretty powerful right now, and probably put her on par with herself in Book 2. That's how strong she got in just probably about a few weeks with Aang. So, yeah. Now, when Zuko does arrive to see Aang meditating, Aang opens his eyes and stares down at Zuko, and Zuko stares up at Aang as they're kind of on a ledge. Like Aang's on a ledge, Zuko's going up to the ledge. But as Aang stares down at Zuko, Aang will stand up as Zuko would punch down, and the flames boost him up to where Aang is. Aang moves back to leave room for Zuko, and Aang just asks, "Are you using your basic Enki firebending, or is your uncle helping you?" Zuko just took a stance that Aang immediately gave away that Zuko was actually training with Iroh, but Zuko just said, "Find out for yourself." Aang held out one hand and just said, "Come on." Zuko ran at him and began blasting his flames. But Aang does notice that they're not, like, Zuko's face is kind of just showing off his emotion. Instead of being angry and arrogant, he's not calm, but he's being fluid. He's putting in effort while trying to ignore his rage, which is holding him back a little bit as flames don't come out at certain times. But he has to use a little bit of effort to even dodge or just push Zuko away now. But when he got close, instead of hitting or throwing Zuko, or at least he's hitting him now with force, Aang instead of palm-hitting Zuko but nudging him into certain positions. But Zuko doesn't notice that these postures are weird, and Iroh is watching this as well, saying that he knows these postures. They're a bit unique. But while they're doing this, eventually Aang, she just keeps nudging Zuko for a while until Zuko would use up all of his energy. And when Zuko would use all of his energy, well, he would just fall to the ground panting. And, after that, Zuko passed out and just bows and walks away. So, yeah. But, eventually Zuko is dragged away by Iroh. Not dragged, but carried away by Iroh. And he does wake up a little bit, and Aang explains to him what he was doing, saying, "Those positions I forced you into are called dragon stances. Your uncle has barely scratched the surface." Aang is aware of who Iroh is. He says, "The ones I taught you increase your output. On our next encounter, if you show enough improvement, I'll show you how to increase the temperature." And Aang himself says, just to get a reference for his temperature of flames, within about a single blast, he can melt the entire hull of Zuko's ship. And Aang says that he believes Zuko can get stronger. He wants to see where he'll go. Zuko just walked away panting as Iroh bowed to Aang, and he'll help Zuko back to the boat. The gang leaves for Omashu. This is a pretty simple story. Aang had watched the world throughout the spirit realm. He couldn't hear anything, but he watched. Kind of like watching TV on mute, mostly. So yeah. Now, when he met the king, he just smiled. Because Bumi said, give them a... Wait, was questioning why Aang was smiling. He's like, why? What do you think? Why are you smiling? Aang kind of had, like, the Jake Kim smile, to be honest. Like the smile that he saw when he saw Sinu. Saying, like, Like, he smiled saying, I made you one ugly man, Bumi, but I'm glad you're still alive. I miss my friends. Bumi just sighed as Aang hugged him, and Bumi would hug him back. Instead of forcing tests upon Aang and having his friends be crystallized, Bumi would actually offer them to Aang. Telling him, like, here are these tests, like these possible tests I was going to give you, but if you really have been keeping an eye on the world, I believe you have trained a little bit at least, because Aang, I know, would have done that. And Aang says he did train, but he wants to show off his skill to Bumi, so he'll do the tests. Every test he does, like the first one with the waterfall, Aang just jumped up and waved his hand, the water stopping, and Aang completed that. Or with Flopsy. Aang knows it's Bumi's pet, so when Flopsy came near, Aang just yelled, sit, it sat, and he pet it. That was it. Then we came to versus Bumi. All Aang did was just punch the air. Well, first Bumi launched a boulder at Aang, knowing he can't get ahead of Aang. But what Aang does is punch Bumi's boulder, full force, destroying it. But when his fist was fully extended, the rocks that came from Bumi's shattered boulder were sent flying at Bumi, pelting him over and over again. Pause. Sorry about that. After Aang had done that, Bumi just submitted, saying, "Okay, I lose. No more rocks. My body can't take things hitting me that fast." As he just pants and sits down. So yeah. Now Aang just laughs and he helped up Bumi, and they actually talking feast like friends. And over the feast, Aang had explained the training he was doing. He explained that kind of training to his friends, like Katara and Sokka. But also he explained like how he spent 2.5 years learning to control that power in the normal realm. And how he was mostly around the Southern Water Tribe doing it. And they never noticed. So yeah. But he also mentioned some bending categories and how he might teach Katara some of the water bending ones. Because Aang doesn't know blood bending. He doesn't use it, but he knows it. As he makes energy bending and water bending in the spirit realm, and he then tried it in the normal realm, but instead he just froze fish in place, and he noticed what this was. This blood bending is probably about as strong as Amon's, but he does not use it. It's not his thing. So yeah. But yeah. That's it. But what else? We might go on to the gang meeting Haru, but the story's pretty simple, and I enjoy it that way. I don't see it really being any different. Katara still loses her necklace. Zuko still uses it. Instead of blackmailing her later, he's just going to do his thing. So yeah. Sorry about that again. Yeah, so the Haru arc is honestly just the exact same, just Zuko has less malicious intentions with Katara's necklace. And we also go on to probably just to where the next arc where Aang defends the village from a giant spirit monster. I think it was like Hebei. Aang pretty easily just uses his connection to the spirit realm and energy bending to just send it back in one burst. Or just calm it and quell it. He pretty easily just fixes the village. It wasn't a hard thing for him to do, to be honest. He's a pretty chill guy. And strong one at that. So, yeah, now while Aang's dealing with that, we head back to Zuko. Zuko and Iroh in the forest, and they're chilling in Iroh's personally made jacuzzi. Now, Zuko cut off the ponytail because his hair is growing out weirdly, so he has the usual, I would say, haircut he has in Ba Sing Se. He has the usual haircut, and he has that usual temperament now. But he's still trying to adjust to the dragon forms. Or dragon stances. Now, while Iroh's chilling out, Zuko's standing in the jacuzzi with the covering around his male parts, and he's practicing the forms Aang had taught him. But Iroh would soon join in, because apparently these forms were forms Iroh was not taught. Now I'm going to go over how Aang knows them. Now, Roku had helped Aang's forms, as is Roku had a pet dragon. I assume Roku knows the dragon style of bending, or at least the dragon style of firebending. So, Aang has over 100 years of experience with bending elements such as fire. Aang trained with Fang, Roku's dragon, but also dragons in the spirit realm, for over 100 years. His firebending is better than anyone better than anyone in history, basically. Maybe except for like the lion turtle, which Aang has met a few of them. So yeah. So yeah, Aang is not being touched by any bender alive currently. What he's doing right now is kind of just side quest to garner hope and enhance his own experience in actual battle, as he only battled the avatars and spirit animals who never had any intent of hurting him. So this is honestly just to gain experience and garner hope in people so they know that he's back. He's not trying to speedrun the war. He feels like it wouldn't do much good that way. So, yeah, that's mainly a lot of it right now. So, Iroh and Zuko were also soon caught by Earth Kingdom soldiers, but Zuko would just use hand-to-hand combat to push them around like they were nothing. He's using the basic bending forms he would use for his previous not upset, but aggressive airbending, and basically just one-tap all of them in one go, without really much difficulty. And he doesn't notice he's moving a lot faster and hitting much harder. He's not even trying to hit hard, he's just hitting them. He's going for 1, 2, 1, 2. That's mainly what he's doing. So yeah. Sorry about that. My brother woke up, he's kind of just causing a bit of chaos this morning. But yeah, sorry about that. But Zuko bodies the Earthbenders with just hand-to-hand combat, and Iroh and himself both noticed how much more efficient Zuko's gotten in terms of his abilities. So yeah, now back to Aang. Now Aang eases all surrounding spirits, especially Hebei. While he's doing that, he would see Fang, Roku's dragon. Aang is told of meeting with Roku, and Aang simply says, "Why don't I just meditate to do it?" Now, Fang actually mentions do it during harmonic convergence, or doing it at Roku's temple. It'll be a much easier conversation to have instead of you sitting around where spirits are around us. There'll be alone Roku, and you'll be around people who serve him. So yeah. So with this Aang would leave, but he should grab the gang with him. And because he's doing this a lot earlier, and he has a pretty good connection with Fang appeared like right as Aang was done, and Aang finished early. So Aang leaves as something he did in canon, but with the gang. And so, yeah. If you guys want to argue that he'd still be late and miss it, Aang's airbending is so precise, he can control the air around him passively. He can just reduce friction on Appa and make sure Appa isn't hurt by that, so they can get to the temple faster. Whatever we're going to say it, Aang is moving faster than canon. So yeah. So they arrive at the temple, and Aang does learn that most sages on the island are evil, and there's a singular good one, Sha Yu. But when Aang does arrive and notice that all of them are evil, we'll use a single stomp on the stone floor to create spikes, or yes, pillars that slam into the sages, pinning them to the wall and knocking them out. When it comes to the room that Aang needs to get into, all it does is hold out his hand, it's like a palm strike, and push forward. And with this, he creates streams of flames for his fingers that push into the wall, opening the gates for Aang. So yeah. So this, he goes in, and he talks to Roku. And despite the sages being pinned down and defeated, they're still arrested for letting Aang escape. Next arc, the pirates. Now the water scroll is found, but instead of stealing it, Aang just sells all their food since they can easily catch more. Sokka's a pretty efficient hunter. Here, Aang is as well. And then Katara and Aang can also just use their water bending, much more efficient water bending, to literally just create a massive ball of water holding fish. So, yeah. Now Sokka doesn't mind this, because like I said before, he can hunt, so, the way I phrase it, Sokka can 1v1 most animals now, which isn't wrong, so, yeah. So with this, they end up buying the scroll, selling all their food, and then later at night, while Katara training with what's in the scroll, well, Aang had trained a little bit with it, and basically mastered all the abilities in one go. It wasn't hard for him to do. Katara was also doing that as well. She's making sure he gets everything done right. Instead of Zuko trying to blackmail Katara with her mother's necklace, instead what she does is like, hey, or Zuko does like, hey, here's your necklace back. I found it at the prison, but yeah, this is what I'm mostly trying to do here is get Aang here so I can fight him. I improved a lot, and he probably promised to teach me a few things because if I improved, trying to learn that right now. So I was like, you're not really here for a fight. You're here to learn to get stronger from Aang. Zuko just nods. He doesn't really mind Aang teaching him, even if it's embarrassing. So yeah. So Katara leaves, gets Aang to meet with Zuko, and their Agni Kai begins, with Aang burning an arena into the ground. Zuko displays improvement, and Aang just laughs, saying, "Wow, I can tell your uncle's been helping your soul find stability." And then Aang makes mention that you need your honor your need for honor has been replaced by a need for personal growth and personal rehabilitation. And pause. Sorry about that. My brother wanted to say hi. Aang mentions that Zuko is now on path to rehabilitation and personal growth, and calls this his first step to becoming a true firebender. And Aang makes a joke, because Aang is very adult. Like, he's 14, physically. Chronologically, he's 112. But still tells Zuko, like, he makes a joke saying, this is your first step to becoming a man. Good job. And he calls Zuko Prince Zuko. Now, Aang is smarter than basically everyone alive currently, because he's been raised by people who are hundreds of years old, if not thousands. So, Aang is kind of a man already. Like, he has the wisdom to match his actual age. So, yeah. Now, when Zuko does blast fire at him, Aang is adjusting his attack, but also genuinely dodging Zuko's blast. Because if he doesn't, he's going to get burned. And Zuko doesn't notice this, actually being proud of it. But eventually Zuko would take a shocking stance, shooting a blast of lightning at Aang. Now, Aang easily redirects it, as before he watched the world and he knows who Iroh is. He knows who everyone is. He knows redirection. It took him a while to learn it. It took him a while to do it, but he learned it. So yeah. But this is to catch Aang off guard. He had redirection it and would basically blast a massive fireball from his mouth. And does blast Zuko out of bounds. Hold up. 3-year-olds are a handful. But Aang eventually would just blast Zuko out of bounds. Zuko tried to bullet head Aang and tried to defend against Aang's fireball with his own fire, but Aang's fireball was simply overwhelming, and Zuko was sent flying out of bounds. Zuko would ready to get mad, but instead of punching the ground, he would just grab a handful of dirt and just throw it into the water. He stands up, pants, and just walks across the lake, where they notice Iroh in the forest line taking the forms, so kind of copying what Aang was teaching Zuko. Now, Aang knows Iroh as well, and keep up the good work. Zuko's mind is developing, and you're losing weight. Immediately, everyone went silent, as Iroh looked shocked himself, yelling like, "I was not going for that. Keep your eyes off my stomach." Iroh was suddenly mad for sending fire out of his mouth, and Aang ran away, yelling his apologies. While Aang runs, he would see Katara and Sokka battling the pirates. Pirates had learned of Aang being an Avatar and learned from a few soldiers blabbing their mouth while they were drunk that Zuko was supposed to capture the Avatar and get a reward by the Fire Lord. No pirates wanted to claim that reward for themselves. Now, as pirates were fighting, Sokka had used Boomerang to throw it around, knocking out a few random guys. Then the Boomerang came back, hitting the captain in the back of his head, and knocking out the captain. While Katara would just create massive ice discs, throwing them at the crew. And that pretty easily just knocks them all down. And while they're all on the ground, just unconscious, Katara would use the water vapor in the air and the ice shards to basically turn them into water, and then freeze them around all of the all the crew, holding them in place for local authority to arrest them. So yeah. Now with this, as they're leaving, Zuko bows and lets them leave. So yeah. Now, Zuko just sits on like the edge of the ship and just clutches onto it and just says, I still have a long way to go before he uses any true effort against me, right, Uncle? Iroh approaches Zuko with his chest puffed out and his stomach sucked in and says, "Yes, nephew, but from what we heard over on the island of Kyoshi warriors, he trained every day that he was gone. He trained longer than even your grandfather was alive for. We may not ever catch up, but if you somehow accept him as an ally someday, he may make you the greatest firebender to ever exist. Aside from himself, Zuko would just sigh if that last bit didn't help him, but as he walked by, he punched Iroh in the gut, making him put his stomach back out, and Iroh just coughed as Zuko did that. And he just says, "Wow, the boy really packs a punch now." But back to the gang on the next arc. The next arc was the Jet arc. I'm saying arc very graciously. They're more like just episodes, but I don't want to say episode because I'm doing this in movie format. So yeah. Now, Katara would tease Sokka as normal while they're walking with Aang, but eventually fire soldiers attack the gang. But just in time, Aang, who had not been joining in on the teasing, was just more or less looking around taking in the nature, would sneeze, and he sent the fire soldiers flying, knocking them all out when they hit the ground. And then the freedom fighters didn't join in yet, and they were pretty impressed that Aang just kind of one-shot all the Fire Nation soldiers. And the gang does get to know them. Katara does not develop a crush on Jet, since she already has one on you-know-who, Aang. Now, Aang is her master, they're the same age, kinda, which made her fall harder for Aang than canon. He's not a child, he's pretty attractive, and he's personal with her a lot. So, yeah. Like I said before, Aang has the intelligence to match his age. His mentality, though, is still what it is canonically. He's still very, very childlike. He never had a chance to be a child. He had a chance to fight like an adult, and that is it. That is it. Karuk was his one chance, and Karuk only had like an hour to train Aang a day. So, yeah. Now, Sokka. He figures out Jet's plan, and he does try to warn his friends, but the freedom fighters capture him. Or, they try to capture him. Now, Smelter Bee, the small one, and Pipsqueak, the fat one, they try to hold Sokka in place, but quickly he would slip out by basically throwing Pipsqueak away. Not Pipsqueak, throwing Smelter Bee away. And Pipsqueak would try to run at Sokka, only to have Sokka kick him in the knee, full force. And then as soon as he began to fall over, immediately Aang Sokka would grab him, pick him up, and throw him over on Smelter Bee, who tried to get back up. But Smelter Bee is just crushed, and Pipsqueak is just unconscious. Jet tried to fight Sokka one-on-one, but Sokka would just use his club, dodging and smacking Jet over the back of the head, knocking him out. Sokka then warned his friends, and they thwart Jet's plan. Jet's plan, not Jet plan. Jet's plan. When the flood wasn't pulled off, Aang goes over to all the water, and to everyone's shock, he would hold out one hand, punching into the water as far as he can, and evaporate over half of the water. Then one more punch just evaporates the remaining bit of it. I had a small mess up here. I went off the top of my head, and I know that there's a canyon arc here, but I did not write a script for it, and because I didn't write a script, I did not know all that was going to happen here. Let's say it goes as canon. I don't care. I forgot it. I forgot what happens. I guess I forgot it existed while I was writing it. But, yeah. Now, the gang was up at a fishing village, which goes relatively similar. But instead of, like, the storm and worrying, all Aang does is actually promise that he'll hold off the storm. He'll do his best to hold off the storm. So, with this, when the storm does begin, all Aang does is actually just sit on, like, the surface of the water by using waterbending to not make himself sink. And he would just quell the waters for the surrounding area. Which he doesn't intentionally quell the water for, like, the surrounding few hundred miles. So, yeah. So, with this, as Sokka is out fishing with the fishermen, and even his wife joins him, on Zuko's vessel, Iroh began his prison workout routine earlier because Aang's comment hurt his feelings. Zuko would join in for half of it because he's already physically getting strong, or even Iroh's like, yeah, don't ever hit me. It's rude, two, it hurts. So, yeah. So, Iroh didn't really lose the weight yet, but his arms and legs are yoked. So, yeah. So, yeah. And Zuko does also continue his firebending training more efficiently. And the crew even cheers on Zuko, and on that offers himself as sparring partner to Zuko. where she does develop a bond between them and Zuko over time. And Zuko even reveals his story to the said village. Not village, but to the said crew. So, yeah. Now, when the storm rolls around, Aang meditates on the water, the rain and thunder rage on, but the water is quelled. In fact, if anything, it's more like a calm river than anything else. So yeah. Now Zuko and Iroh both notice that they look into the water and they're both like, hey, thunder and lightning with heavy rain, but the water's fine. Zuko just says, waterbending? And then they both come to the same conclusion. Aang. Like, Zuko doesn't call the Avatar, doesn't call Aang the Avatar, neither does Iroh. They call him Aang. Like, they're on good terms. Like, their entire thing is just that it's a firebending rivalry. Even Iroh's in on it now. So, yeah. Eventually, the next arc. Katara and Sokka are sick, but Aang would use energy bending to knock them out, instead of letting them suffer. Kind of putting them into like a medically induced coma. And well, he has them like this so their bodies are healthy, and he finds a cure for them. But on his way back, Aang was walking, and since a lot of archers, the Yuan archers, now Aang actually does think like, maybe Zuko did this. So in hope of seeing Zuko and training him more, he decides to get captured to see Zuko. But quickly he realizes he was wrong and ends up in prison. But he doesn't mind. He thinks it'd be fun to escape the prison. So, yeah. Pause. Sorry about that. Pause. Sorry about that. I unpaused and my mom gave me breakfast. I know I said someone. That's rude. But, yeah. Aang thought it'd be fun to escape the prison, so he allows himself to be fully captured. That's really greasy. While Aang is chained up, he waits for the coast to be clear before ripping the chains off. Which he does, where it's literally just walking and pulling, which wasn't really too hard for him to do. He's physically a beast. He punches boulders to pieces for fun. It's a pretty easy thing for him to do. I'd phrase it, Kyoshi was like 7'4", and she's powerful, like physically. Aang can throw her through a wall. Aang can do that right now. He's that good. So yeah, Kyoshi and him are just pretty solid with each other right now. So yeah. Now, eventually while Aang's about to open the door, suddenly it opens for him as a man with a blue mask walked in. Aang and the blue demon run out, and being basically punched through every soldier. The blue demon not even using a sword, he's just really grabbing and throwing guys into walls and punching them in the face full force. But eventually, after they punch through every soldier, Zhao would end up confronting them. Instead of going for a fight, Aang was up on the ground full force with his guard up, and with that, he shoots his arms in the air fully, creating a massive stone wall. Now he didn't just wave the blue demon away, knowing who it is now. He was just close enough for a long period of time to smell them, so he knows who they are. So yeah. With this, Aang would basically allow Zuko to run away. And once Zuko goes away and he hears firebenders blasting at the wall, he would then put his foot on the ground and then sense through everything. As he senses everything, he would be able to basically let's phrase this. He sensed when their organies are attacked and be the most vulnerable. So when they were all bending and they were all vulnerable, and just palm tracked the wall, and he immediately just sent blasts of rocks, like pelts of rocks, all hitting the soldiers, which knocked them all out. So once they're all knocked out, Aang kind of just laughs and walks out. So while Aang leaves, he goes in the forest, and Aang and Zuko would have a quick sparring match. It's more or less just Zuko running to like where you at right now. So yeah. Now Aang, it was just a quick match. Aang noticed he had swords and wanted to see how skilled Zuko was with them. So, Zuko's using swords, Aang pulls out his fans, and pretty easily defending Zuko, pretty easily beating them, actually. Wasn't really a hard fight, to be honest. So, yeah. Now, Aang kind of mentions the benefits of the fans. And he says, if you learn to use them, you'll be able to learn how to blast fire a longer distance, but also you'll be able to have more power, as fans can easily block against fire. Well, it's metal fans. So yeah. So Aang ends up handing the fans to his friends, not to his friends, but to Zuko. And then he returns to his friends. So with this, once that happens, he goes and he sees his friends again and makes them suck on frogs while they're unconscious, which allows them to be healed, I guess. So yeah. So once the frogs did their job, they hop away and Aang wakes his friends up. He does tell them what he did, but they feel that something in their mouth tastes funny. So, yeah. So, yeah. Now with this, we move on to, I'd probably say, the Makapu village arc, which honestly I can see as being very similar, like this volcano and it scares them. But when it scares them, all Aang does is stomp on the ground, raise his arms up, and he lifts all the magma out of the volcano. Like, he drains it completely. But then he swirls it in kind of like a rod-esque shape and slams it down back on the volcano, closing it off with hardened magma, making sure nothing can come out of it ever again. So, yeah. But we're going to keep going to probably just the end of that arc now. And we go on to when Iroh and Zuko meet June. They use her to track Aang. Now you guys are wondering, like, oh, they don't have guitars and necklace anymore. What happens instead is that some of Zuko's unlocked clothing, like the Blue Demon outfit, after being around Aang so long, has some of Aang's, I would say, just dried skin, which is kind of gross, but it happens. We're humans. Or hair, actually, because Aang actually has hair. So with this, one way or another, they're sniffing out Aang. They're just tasting out Aang. So when the tracking succeeds and they find Aang and Zuko, or they find Aang and his friends, this leads to basically Zuko and Iroh requesting to fight Aang. As Aang would find 2-on-1 fun. So with this, when the fight is about to begin, well, I say the fight could just begin. Iroh starts out with the massive blast of fire towards Aang, and Zuko would use his fangs to twirl the flames into a massive tornado. Now Aang is surprised, like, oh, that's a lot of fire for someone so away, and I get it. Aang was able to jump clean through it because, well, one, he's durable, but two, the flames aren't hot enough to actually burn him severely. And he says, oh, use the bare minimum and use your own fire to like spark. And before you finish everything else, like say like oh, use your own fire to spark them up. No, he just said spark, and then Zuko would blast at him. Zuko would use his own blast at the fans, but Aang would actually just spit water from his mouth, first spit and then water vapor to extinguish the flames, creating a massive amount of mist. Iroh and Zuko were both looking for Aang as they ended up going back to back. All that happened is Aang would jump in the air, or separate them both. Once both to the sides, Aang would palm strike the air, hitting fire blasts both in their chests, sending them flying out of bounds. Hold up. Once they're both out of bounds due to Aang's fire blast, he would just laugh. Iroh and Zuko instead of punching the ground, they more or less just get up, hold on to the wall, and actually laugh with Aang. And they both admit that Aang needed tactics and fire to hit them. And Iroh and Zuko both take that as we're all getting stronger, which makes them happy. With this, Iroh can laugh, saying, "You can tell that by your hair. You're not bald anymore, and your hair grew back lusciously and quickly. And your body and soul are getting healthier by the day." And he mentions that like Zuko is nearly as healthy as he was before that fight, mentally at least. So yeah. Now with this, the gang leaves, and they make their way back. They make their way to the town where they meet Jeong Jeong, the guy who taught Aang the basics of firebending. Jeong Jeong teaches Aang more modern firebending techniques right away because Aang's a very, very mature guy and a skilled firebender. He just knows old techniques. So he pretty easily was able to pass Jeong Jeong's test, and then just did the basic more modern techniques, which took him 3 hours to completely master in every single way. And then him and Jeong Jeong play Pai Sho for a few hours. This is where Aang learns about the White Lotus. Learn about the White Lotus. So yeah. Now, Katara does do her training for a while. While Aang is training, she does her training, and she ends up learning the first step of healing by accident. When she would use a water whip, but while she was too focused on something else, she had cut her hand. She put her hand in the water to just get the blood off, but she would not healing and heal herself. Meantime, Sokka was practicing boomerang accuracy, and then they left. While they're leaving, Zhao did try to take them on as he found out where they were, but Aang did jump in the air and do a basic hook kick, and immediately extinguished the flames. No, extinguished the flames. The flames came from his foot, and the arch would destroy Zhao's armada. So, yeah. Sorry about that profanity. Zhao was completely baffled by Aang's power, as he experienced only a mere fraction of the Avatar's ability, and his squad was completely eradicated. Now, the next arc is the Mechanist arc, which I would say is relatively the same, but Aang just knew they were there. So, due to Aang keeping an eye on the world, he knew they were there. So, he didn't really mind. So, yeah. Now, where was I? So, the gang would arrive to the Northern Water Tribe after the Mechanist arc, and they have a party upon arrival. Now, here's the thing. Katara had trained every day that they had water, at least. And Aang had also taught her to use water vapor, but also her own bodily fluids. Be reminded, at the gutter, she's 14. Now, with this, Aang, who had been the greatest bender in history in every element, had been also teaching her that along the way with water vapor and bodily fluids, mined out of the gutter. So, Katara is as strong as she can be. So, when it came to learning under Pakku, well, she suggests, Aang, do you think I should do it? And Aang, being his usual laid back self, point where they compare him to Karuk, but he's more powerful. Aang just says, do what you want. I'm only learning here to learn modern battle tactics to fuse with my older days ones. Well, you're probably stronger than every bender here. Just brush up on the healing, then teach me that. Pakku had heard that Katara was stronger than the benders here. And he says, and Pakku does speak up his opinion, saying, "A woman stronger than me and my students. You may be the Avatar, but I doubt a woman, especially one so young, can even make a decent opponent." Aang and Sokka both noticed Katara's pissed off look, and this just made Aang laugh. And he says, how about this? He immediately would just roll his foot on the ground, denting the floor of the castle, or is the palace, but it had created a massive circle. And he says, how about both of you battle this out in this circle? Now, Pakku was going to say no, but Katara would just laugh by holding out her cheek, telling him, "You get the first hit." And Aang kind of just laughed. Aang did laugh, but Pakku let his pride get the best of him, and with this, I would say that I'm trying to phrase it this way. Pakku goes in for a water whip, but Katara would just spin, running her hand through it, and when she finished the full 360, she sent the water whip right back at him. instead of whipping him, it splashed him. Now there's enough enough water to basically just drench him. But then she began twirling her hands, and she would freeze the water. If Haku was frozen, she would then run, jump, and kick him right in the chest, sending him flying directly out of the circle, knocking him out. Now, Haku eventually woke up a few hours later, being treated for ice burns, and he was just told how easily Katara beat him. She didn't land a single hit. She just turned his attack on him and beat him with it. As he's being healed, he just simply admits, "I underestimated that girl." And he thought of how the power of the women he's met, and just yelled, saying, "If any women have interest in learning how to fight offensively, you may seek teaching at my school. We'll open our doors to you." Ladies were surprised, and a few accepted. In the meantime, Sokka had showed off his battle skills to the Northern Water tribe, soldiers, pretty easily manhandling a lot of them, even the waterbenders. Well, really, any difficulty. And he also helped them update the Fire Nation gear so that it looks more modern. And eventually, when Zhao's fleet arrives, Zhao knew Zuko and Iroh were here and knew that they have some relationship with the Avatar. So with this, he immediately tells the soldiers, "If I were to fall, finish my job." And he tells them what he plans to do. So the soldiers are in on the entire plan. Now, Iroh and Zuko knew Aang was here, so they decided to sneak around the battlefield the Zhao's army created and go towards Aang. Now, Sokka was actually in the middle of the fight, basically laying hands on every single firebender that he came across, when he's throwing them into each other and using them as human shields. And he was doing it at the same time while escorting Yue away. Katara was fighting Zhao, and she pretty easily beat him. It was not really a hard fight. And she copied some of Sokka's abilities that he had used for Fire Nation techniques. All that happened was that she basically easily blocked against Zhao and then just froze him and threw him into the water. She had used the water around her, froze Zhao, and kicked him into the water, turning him into a human-sized iceberg. I guess ice block is more accurate. So yeah. Now Aang himself was just gliding into the middle of all the ships, or slamming his staff into the water, and he pretty easily just moved Zuko's ship out of the way. He doesn't know if he's on it or not. He would just slam his staff into the water, or just glide into the water, and twirling it and create a massive water tornado, taking shape of the water spirit. As he can pretty easily copy it. And then after he copied it, he would be able to more or less just go into Avatar state with it and do the same thing he did in canon, but he's in full control of this rampage. He just likes doing it. So, yeah. But eventually, Aang returns, letting the water tribe fight off the rest of the soldiers. And Aang is to go with set up an Agni Kai stage. But while this is setting the ring up, the sky went gray. Waterbender fell to their knees, Aang felt a small pang in his heart, and Yue fell to the ground. Aang, Iroh, and Zuko ran over the pond, see a group of fire soldiers with spears, and one of them was Zhao. Zhao had just had on spear fishing and impaled the water spirit, the moon spirit. Immediately Zuko just ran over, saying, "You idiot!" And Zuko would just jump in the air and Superman punched Zhao right in the chest, blasting him clean through the heart, killing Zhao. Zhao hit the ground, found the hole in his chest, and for the five soldiers of Zhao's group, or even Zuko or Iroh could get to them, Sokka would jump in the air, calling them idiots. He'd grab onto the main one, grab him by the face, throwing him into his other ally. Then the other one who grabbed the ocean spirit, trying to revive it, because he's terrified right now. Almost Sokka would grab his spear, breaking it over his head with how much force he swung it down on. It wasn't starting to impale him, he just hit him with it. But Sokka beat the soldiers, and he's pretty pissed off out, honestly. Now, Yue still gives her life for the moon spirit, which makes Sokka lash out a bit more, but he just mourns overall. And Zhao had unthawed, which is kind of why he did that, but Aang and Zuko still do have their Agni Kai, and Zuko doesn't know that his flame is actually pushing Aang back a little bit. And Aang is using his own flame to push back Zuko as well. And he's pretty good at it. So with this, Aang doesn't really need to give Zuko any tips. So far, he's learning good on his own. So this will allow him to more or less just blast Zuko out of bounds. but doesn't admit this has gotten much stronger. And he doesn't know that Iroh looks jacked, so, yeah. So with this, Iroh and Zuko bow, then they leave. And Aang and his gang leave Little Water Tribe, and they head on to Book 2. And we end this part here. Hope you guys enjoyed. Like and subscribe for Book 2, and, yeah.